We are live. We're live.
Come on in.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Facebook. Let me lower the volume. I'm going to be sharing as people come in.
Come on, let's go. Let's get ready.
Hello, everyone. When you come in, say hi, guys. Say hi. Let me see who's here. Ronnie Sorry. Hey, Ronnie. See you there. I'm
just letting it ride for a minute.
All right, I shared everywhere.
Here
How's
we
everybody
go.
doing tonight? Say hi, guys. Say hi. How's everybody doing tonight?
Woo!
All right, we could get started.
Yo!
Welcome. Well, I'm not gonna scream yo like that.
What's up?
Hi, everyone. Oh, let me see.
How we doing on this wonderful Wednesday? Beautiful. Well, where I'm at, it's like 33 degrees. I think Sarai, it's chilly here. It's like 70.
Look what I'm wearing. I'm wearing a cutoff shirt. It's like, well, I'm not gonna show my belly, but it is a cutoff shirt. Well, like, I'm good.
You are inside. You know that, right? So that's pretty normal. I got a t-shirt too. Good inside.
Well, I mean, cut off on my stomach, but it's 70-something degrees here, I think. Sorry for you that it's 30-something.
It's all good. We can gear up for that. We can gear up and get ready to rock. I don't mind that at all.
Sarah.
Hey, Sarah, I don't mind. I don't mind a little brisk, right? Sarah, is it too cold for you, Sarah? Sarah's where I'm at. But, you know,
she lives over there too?
Yeah. This is where real people live.
In Hagerstown?
Well, I think she's in PA.
Oh, okay, cool.
But
how are you, Sarah?
So, all right. Tonight. Anyways, how we doing on this wonderful evening? What's up? Let's get this thing started. I'm going to introduce myself, and then I'll let her introduce herself. My name is Raymond Wright. I am the founder of Right Way Leadership Transformational Coaching. She said it was flurrying. I didn't see that, but I believe it. It was that cold today. So today, as you know, I am your motivator. I am your inspirator. But most importantly, it's all about the transformation process, the growth mindset, to help bridge the gap from where you are to where you want to go. I can never say it enough. This podcast is for you, about you, because our ultimate goal is to get you to take the steps into your destiny, into your God-given gifts. So with that, I'll introduce you to my partner who is over that way.
Hey guys, if this is the first time we meet, my name is Sarai Nammur. I am a licensed mental health counselor in the state of Florida. I mean, there's a lot to say, but I'm also the founder of Circle of Champions Worldwide, where many of you are a part of and you're a tribe member of. My passion is self-improvement and helping you become all the greatness that you were born to be, helping you transform that pain and adversity and any traumas you've been through and turn that into something that you can stand on and become a better you. So that's what we're here for. And today we are going to be talking about we're going to talk about 9 self-defeating thinking patterns that are stopping your success. And there are 9 different specific ways that we think that are negative, which actually we all do that. We all do these different things. The difference is that it will stop your success if you do this consistently and if you allow it to take over your mind. So a way of thinking about it is, we talked about it before, Raymond. I don't know if you remember, like at the beginning of the year, I did a live with Jennifer about this, but they're called ants, and you gave it another name. So ants are automatic negative thoughts. and those
Mhm.
are ants. So you could have a couple of ants, but if you have like a whole bunch infestation of ants in your brain, then it becomes a big issue and you need to, get rid of those. So when they become overwhelming, when these thoughts become overwhelming and control your life and control your
Mhm.
decisions and stop you from moving forward, then that's when you have an infestation. But in reality, we could deal with one ant here and there, but we just can't deal with the infestation. So today, as we go through these, I just want you to think about how these are playing out in your life. Are they stopping you from your greatness? Are they stopping you from making decisions? Are they stopping you from moving forward? All of that. So, Raymond, what was it that you had called it? Because I did that at the beginning of
I
the year with Jennifer.
so
You called it
uh uh
something else.
yeah, well, it wasn't my term. A friend of mine named Mark Militello, he calls it a rat, RATT, really awful, terrible thoughts.
Oh, yeah, I like that. I remember. So it's the same thing. What if you had rats?
It's
Well, I
well,
can't even deal with one rat.
yeah, but so the whole process of the rat, really awful, terrible thoughts, is these are the things that, I mean, they're the things that creep back into your life over and over again, and you have to know how to kill the rat. You have to learn how to kill that really awful, terrible thought before it creeps into your mind. Because when those rats creep into your mind, they're hell of a hard to get rid of.
Yeah, and then the other thing too is that before we get into these, the other thing too about it is that sometimes we want to justify our thinking or the things that we say to ourselves with logic, and that's just a way of us
Hmm.
justifying something that's not really working for us. And
Yep.
as we know, our outside world is created by first by what we see in our mind and by what's happening to us internally. So whatever you see someone having in their outside world, it all began with their inside. And with their inside, I'm
Yeah.
talking about their mind and your thoughts. Your thoughts produce everything. Your thoughts are the birth of everything. And then thoughts come in two ways. And I want you guys to think about this. Thoughts come in the way of statements that we tell ourselves, but they also come in the way of questions like, why is this happening to me? That's a terrible question. Like that's a question where you're putting yourself already in a victim role. A better question is what could I do about this situation that's in my best interest, or what could I do in this situation for the greater good, for my greater good, or whatever greater good. So the two ways that these play out are in things that you tell yourself, or in questions that you ask yourself. Raymond, don't
Well,
you think
don't
like questions are super powerful?
questions are super powerful. So I wanted to ask you. So when you get these ants, a lot of that, I think, also comes from other people's
Yeah,
words to us too. I think, especially growing up in the kind of the home that I did. I was never told, Raymond, that was a good job. Raymond, good boy. Raymond, this, like, there was no
exactly.
confirmation ever. So I automatically, I can remember at 9, 10 years old, I was talking to a brother of mine today, not my actual blood brother, but a brother of mine. Actually, he'll be on live with me tomorrow night. As I was telling him, I can remember at 10 years old, just like I remember trying to hang myself from the shower curtain. Like, I had but that's where I was. I was lost because I just felt like nobody ever confirmed anything. So, I am stupid. I don't do good in class because I'm an idiot. Or so. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then
Mm.
self-talk, you build that self-talk into yourself because you're so used to everyone else telling you that, including the teachers at school. I mean, I can remember, I didn't,
That's so
my
true.
dad died.
That's so true.
Yeah. So that really was the establishment that was built in my mind before I, like, even knew how to really have my own mind, was the fact that I
Man,
was no good, the fact that I was dumb, the fact that I was, fatherless, the fact that I was, poor, the fact that you know what I mean? My parents were crack addicts, so forth and so on.
yeah, that's such a good point. That's exactly that's like I totally agree with you. Like when I see people that I speak to, like that what they're saying makes no sense with what I see about them, and then I'll say like, or they'll say something negative about themselves, and I'll say, whose voice is that? Like, who told you that? Who is it, your
Yeah.
voice or is that someone else's voice? And a lot of times they'll say, well, that's what my mom tells me. And I'm like,
Yeah.
good, because now you're able to differentiate between your voice and someone else's voice, except for what you said is 100% true. Like when we grow up in environments that we're hearing this constantly, we internalize it so much that it becomes our voice because we
So
lose
so
our voice.
So that, and to stem from that, so you just brought up a perfect point, and then I know you want to get to your points, but so that mom telling that person that you told something affirmative of, but their mom told them something negative. The reason that happens a lot of the times is because that mom is only duplicating what her mom told her.
Yeah,
You know what?
exactly.
So it's just this cycle that continues to go on and on. I mean, I'm guilty of it with my kids, and that's why I'm so blessed that, years ago I was able to understand and try to break the cycle. Am I perfect? No, but now I can catch myself and I can reframe myself. So yeah, I just
Yeah.
wanted to. Yeah.
And some of the points that we're going to make tonight are actually ways that you would never speak to someone you care about or you love, or a friend of yours. Or if someone came to you with an issue, a lot of the points that we're going to make tonight, it's actually ways that you wouldn't speak to someone else, but yet you'll speak to yourself that way. Because either A,
Yep.
you're used to it, or it's what you heard, or it could even be what you believe is what has been indoctrinated into you. But okay, we could get started. But those were like really good points that you made
That's a
there.
good way to. That's a good way to start because because I think right there by starting that way, I think everybody, almost everybody, 90% of the people can relate to that.
Yes, of course, of course. We all can relate to that because
What's up,
we're
boss lady? All
definitely.
right, I got that
All
in.
right. Well, the first one that if you guys have any questions about these as we go along, as always, you guys are part of the conversation. If you guys have any questions or comments, just go ahead and make them as we go along. Because in reality, this isn't stuff that happens to other people. This is stuff that happens to all of us every
Yeah.
day. And we just want to increase your awareness because sometimes we're not growing or becoming better in our lives because of these things. So if you're aware of these, awareness is step one. Next step is to interrupt it.
Yeah.
So this let's I guess let's start with the first one. But the same way, let me put it this way: the same way, if we're friends, right, and like Raymond and I are talking to each other, let's say, and then one of us says something that is one of these negative ways of thinking or negative ways of talking to ourselves. As a good friend, I'm gonna go, hey, like, are you sure that's correct? Or hey, do you think that's the right way to think about it, or whatever? Because as so the same way we do that for other people, we got to learn to do that for ourselves. So we got to learn to say, you know what, should I really be thinking that way? Or is that really going to help me? Or how does that thought serve me? And that's a good question to ask is how does that serve you? How does it serve you? So the first one is discounting the positive. And basically, what that means is that you invalidate the good things that are happening in your life or the good things that are in a situation, and you only focus on what's not working or the challenging part. So you only talk about or think about like the difficult part of the situation or what's not working for you or that type of thing. And then you completely don't look at the positive that's coming out
Mm.
of that situation. You have an example of that, Raymond? Like, could you think of an example of that when that happens?
I think it's anytime. I want to say for me, I mean, I guess the best thing to do is always explain to myself is when things don't, basically we have expectations, right? We have expectations and we might not reach that expectation, right? But we accomplished something towards that expectation. But what we do is we don't see that we actually exceeded where we were, but we didn't get where we want to go. So we find the negative in that, if that makes sense. So it's like, this is where I wanted to do, but it's growth. It's like, I want to be on the biggest stages in the world, but I only got to a virtual stage, right? And then you've told me that. You're like, yeah,
Right,
but
right, okay.
what you've done this year, you've done X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, dang, like I didn't even realize that. Like, wow, like, yeah,
Man,
I
I'm such
have
a
been.
good friend to you. I just realized what a great friend I am to you by doing that. You see, guys?
You know,
That's what I'm
the
talking
funny
about.
thing is, the funny thing is this, right? It's not the fact that, well, it is the fact that you are a great friend, but it's also the fact that I put great people in my life. See, it goes both ways. A lot of times you can't get great insight because the people around us, they only know what they've been taught And a lot of times the people that we run with before we start this process, right? Even successful people, right? In one area suck in a lot of different areas because the people they have around them, right? I always tell people,
Mhm.
you can have all the money in the world, but if you're a douchebag, you're a douchebag, right? If you take a jerk and you give a jerk all the money in the world, he's just a wealthy jerk.
Right. But that was an excellent example. That was such a great example. So I had an example too, but yours beat mine. Um, but that's a great example. Like, and my example happened to be about the pandemic too. It was about someone complaining, because I know someone that complains about this. Like someone complaining about that they're stuck at home, and they're so upset that they're stuck at home during the pandemic, instead of realizing, stuck at home meaning that they're working from home, instead of realizing, yeah, but I have a job during the pandemic and I'm able to make money, and I'm actually not spending money going using my gas or anything like that. So it's
But could you
so basically,
imagine this sorry to cut you off, but imagine that. Imagine the growth mindset compared to a negative mindset, right? The pessimistic, right? You're getting to work from home. It's the same people that complain about not having time to eat right. It's the same people that complain about not being able to exercise. It's the same people that complain about not having enough time with their family. And now they're complaining about having all that right in front of them. Working from
right,
home means,
right,
I don't have to get up as early. I don't have to get all dolled up. I don't have to get all dressed up. Maybe I can exercise for that 30 minutes. Now I can do my food prep because I don't have to get up as early. See, we always
right.
find the negative in everything,
That's
right?
true.
And the pandemic has brought that. And the pandemic it's a horrible thing. I don't really use the COVID word at all. But this is the prime example. I'm glad you did, because this is the prime example where, are you preparing or are you in kind of retreat, right? Because most people right now,
Right.
all they're talking
Mhm.
about is another shutdown. We're going to get shut down. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. So prepare for it. Prepare for it.
Well, that's
Prepare
an
for it.
excellent point. That's an excellent point with this first point of ours of discounting the positive is, while we're in this pandemic and while we might be facing another huge shutdown, right? Let's say that were to happen, it's what you're saying right now. Discounting the positive is complaining about it instead of going, okay, what could I do in this time? Because it's not gonna last forever. What could I do during this time? And I think, I think we've talked about that a lot, and I think we've done that. I like during this time I've tried a lot to like learn and like taking a whole bunch of courses and learn new and better ways of doing certain things. And that's a great point. That would be the cure to discounting the positive, is to looking for the positive. The cure of discounting the positive is looking for the positive, looking at what you can do, as opposed to not seeing anything at all. So another good point.
Yes. Woo,
So
that's two good points for Ray. Winner, winner,
yeah.
chicken dinner.
And and then Crystal says, "Man, I used to be so bad about that." Yeah, I wonder, Crystal, I wonder if you could tell us, like, how did you stop doing it? What worked for you? How did you stop doing that? And Selena says, "See, I have high expectations of people in my circle, and when they don't have the same for themselves or hold themselves to the same standard, I get really upset because they don't see the
Mm,
same in themselves that I see." Oh, I
yeah.
totally get that, Selena. Like, that's
You know,
that's like
so
when you have sight when you have sight to see greatness in people, it's very frustrating when they're unable to see it for themselves. Like, and like, I have clients and everyone, people get mad at me because I see, like, they don't some people don't want to hear how great they are, and then I see the other side. You know what it is, I see the possibility.
yeah.
I fall in love with the
I always,
possibilities in people.
I always said you were the one thing that first thing I noticed about you was always what an edifier you are, how you edified people of what you saw in them, and that's a great trait to have. Um, but I was on a train of thought, but I forgot.
Crystal says, are you
So
for hire for food prep? No, I
I
don't
I
think he
told
is.
her I told her money always talks.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, yeah, with
Oh,
the
I
right
saw that.
feet,
I saw
look, with the right feet, I can make the best eggs. Actually, so
that.
I cook.
Well, Waffle House has the
Crystal,
best eggs.
Crystal, I cooked tonight. I cooked this halibut tonight with some quinoa and some zucchini and peppers and portobello mushrooms. Oh, mamacita was woo, so good.
Look, she says you helped her a lot during the pandemic and you helped her see the positive.
And she's, you know what, my girl, boss lady, she is. The one thing I could say about boss lady, Crystal is we've become very, very good friends, and I started actually stalking her on Facebook. And you know what caught me about Crystal is she had this just phenomenal smile, probably the best smile I've ever seen in my life. And that's what caught me. And then I immediately seen like, that is your brand. Your brand is behind your smile. And she's just such a delight. I've enjoyed really becoming good friends with her. And I think we've helped each other along the way. And she's got amazing things that are coming down the pipeline, so to say. But
So to speak.
or, so
I
to
always tell
speak.
you so to speak.
Yeah, but now you say it. I don't even know if you're aware of it. And Selena,
I said
eggs
it
are
the other
fantastic.
day. Hi Jamie, what's up? Okay, so the next one,
What's up, Jamie?
the next the next one that we're going to talk about, it's called mental filtering. Let me put it here. Okay, so the next one is
Can this
called
go-
mental filtering.
So can mental
What?
filtering can mental filtering go back to what I was talking about, is that really awful, terrible thought, is how to kill that rat before it creeps into your thought process, right? Is that what mental filtering is? I'm just, trying to.
It is a lot like mental filtering is a lot like counting the positive. It's like a reverse way of doing it. So it's when you focus on the negative to the exclusion of the positive. So it's like the opposite. It sounds like the opposite. So that's when we spotlight. It's like when we zoom in on the negative. The discounting the
Ew.
positive is when we look at all the negative and we don't see any positive. And mental filtering is when there's everything's good, but there's one bad. It's like looking at a painted wall and it's beautifully
Mhm.
painted, but then there's one spot, and then you zoom in into the spot, and you're like, oh look at the and you do that. So mental filtering is like zooming in and spotlighting that one negative thing about a person or that one negative thing about a situation. I've seen it happen a lot with people, like where you zoom in on that one negative thing about the person and you fail to see everything else that might be great about the person. It could be like through work, like being employed, or it could be like in a relationship. That there's one thing that you really don't like about the person, and you zoom in on that one thing. And there are some one things that could break the deal, but I'm not talking about those. Um, so it could be
I didn't
like
know
those
where you
things.
were
Like,
going with that at all.
what do you mean?
I
Which
didn't.
one?
There's one thing
So
that can break the deal.
yeah, there are deal breakers in all kinds of relationships, whether it's romantic or friendships or like a boss and an employee. There are one things. There are things that are deal breakers, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who are or situations or people, things that are pretty good,
So
and then
what's a deal
one
breaker
thing
for you?
happens. In what sense? For me, smoking, probably. In a relationship, smoking. I can't be with someone who smokes.
No, no, no.
That's
Like,
I
I'm not talking about a significant other. I'm talking about, because that's the hard part, is especially for me,
lying.
somewhat lying. Okay,
Lying
absolutely.
is a big
Lying.
deal.
Yeah.
I mean, lying.
It,
I won't like stop speaking to someone for lying, but I will definitely know my limit with you, so I won't be
yeah.
close with you. I'll just be like,
Because
hey, what's up?
it's a thing, and I think it's trust. I think once the trust is broken, it's so hard to
Yeah,
gain to begin with, that once trust is broken, it's really hard. I mean, you can forgive, but it's really hard to trust someone again, because it's always in your conscious, right? You can
yeah.
forgive them, but you're always like, man, So, definitely, definitely. One thing, and it's not a deal breaker, but um, I think for me, it's for people who are just unwilling, like just completely unwilling to change, right? They continue to do what they do and get what they get. and complain about it. And I think there has to be a time where you love them, but you begin to love them from afar.
Right. Right. Say that again. Say that again.
You love them, but you begin to love them from afar.
Under what situation were you saying?
Huh?
Oh, your microphone is doing that thing again. Crystal. So Crystal says silence and shutout, but I don't know what you mean. You mean silence and shutout is your deal breaker? Is that what you mean? That it's your deal breaker? And she says, even if it's unintentional, I have to have connection. Yeah, definitely. Um, for Selena says not having an open mind and ignorance of is definitely a deal breaker.
And that's kind of what I was saying. It's people who, the bottom line is this is, trauma is seriously trauma creates so much depression, so much addiction, so much sexual abuse, so much violence. And, but I think people who want to stay there, right? After after you give them some resources, you give them some books, you give them some audios, you give them, and you just give and you give and you give and you give, and they take and they take and they take and they take. Eventually, you got to say no more. Like
Right.
it'll exhaust anybody. And then every time so there's a guy where I work. Hopefully, he doesn't watch this, but there's a guy where I work.
You shouldn't have said that. You should say a guy
look,
that I used to work with.
No. So I do some consulting for a pharmaceutical company, and this is crazy. And what happens is when he's coming, he's not a bad guy, but when he's coming, I'm like, oh my gosh, because I know he's going to complain about something, and that's like it sucks the life out of you. So like when I see him coming, I go the other way.
Yeah, so that's
And
that's
I try to be positive, and I try to be like excited, and it's just like, oh.
but that's an excellent real life example, because we all know that person that it could be the sunniest day, things could be going great, and then they'll pick one thing to gripe about, or one thing that's not going right, and say, like, oh, you see, this is why, and then you're just like, what? Like, it's 70 degrees, it's I'm not freezing my butt off like Raymond, and the day's awesome. But
You
anyway,
did say it was chilly today at 70, though.
it's not even 70, it's like 77.
And she
I'm
said,
from
guys,
Miami.
she said, it's chilly today.
It is chilly, and my daughter's cold.
Hey,
But that was an
hey,
excellent example of mental filtering. And you know what? Someone like that, if you listen to what comes out of someone's mouth, it'll give you a big clue as to what's happening internally for them and what they're experiencing. So if that person that's constantly complaining and all of that, they're probably very depressed, because depressed people speak that way. When you're depressed, it's hard for you to see the positive, even
you
if
know
it's
what it is?
like blaring
You,
inside of you.
you want to know what it is? It's this, as I
In
can
front of
tell.
you.
He's an older gentleman reaching towards retirement, and he's realized I've never gone after what I really wanted. And
Okay, you see?
he's had job after job after job, smart man, great man, good man. But you know what? It's just, you could just tell that he never fully got to do what he really wanted to do. And where he's at still isn't, it's not too late. You're never too late until you're dead. When you're dead,
Yeah.
that's when it's too late.
Well, but that's like feeling that pain of regret, of, what I shoulda, woulda, coulda, type of thing. But so you know what's
Stop it,
funny?
Selena.
Selena lives in Florida, and she said it was
Stop it,
chilly.
Selena.
Ooh, she also thinks it's chilly. It was chilly, Selena.
Selena,
He
Irish
says he
people.
says it was
Look,
33. I'm like, 33 is like, it's like a winter storm for us down here. Like when we hear 33, we're like, oh my God, what's happening? The world's ending. Like that's what it feels like for us if it's 33.
hey, Crystal, you hear this nonsense?
33 is like a nightmare. It's like we don't go out. We don't even go to school. School gets shut down for 33. I'm not even kidding. Like if
I
it's
feel like we
33,
can't be friends no more.
we don't even have clothes for 33 degrees. We don't have clothes for that. Like we can't go anywhere. We can't do anything. Like seriously.
That's terrible.
I'm
Oh
serious.
my gosh.
I'm serious. Like
I
today
don't
was
I don't I
cold.
don't I don't even want to start making fun of you.
Yeah, it was a nice chili, Selena. Exactly. Anyway, the next one is all or none thinking. So all or none thinking happens a lot in relationships. So all or none thinking is one day you're awesome, the next day you're terrible. Meaning not that you really are, meaning that's how you perceive the other person. Or you probably may have had someone treat you like that. Like you do one thing and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, you don't even care about me. And then the next day you do something nice and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're the greatest. And then one day you have to say no for some reason, all of a sudden you're terrible again. So all or none thinking is there's no gray area. There's no area for you to just be human. There's only either you're good or you're bad, black and white. It's that type of what are you laughing at? It's that kind of thinking. So it's
Selena's killing me. She said 33 degrees. I'd move.
exactly. And the other with all or none thinking, the other thing with all or none thinking could be even with yourself. So all or none thinking, it's
Hey,
hard for me to
Crystal.
focus with
Hold on.
you cracking up.
Hold on. Hold on. Crystal. So just because we were poor as hell, like I've eaten squirrel. Like I'm sure like my stepfather would bring home squirrel.
Oh, you know what you just made me think about? Roadkill. Like, does that really happen? People really eat roadkill?
Look, when you dead, broke, and stupid, you do whatever you gotta do to survive.
Oh,
Look, I gotta share a story. I gotta share a
Crystal
story.
just said that she
Look,
and didn't have a wait. That's not even true. She's making a joke.
No. But the squirrel thing's right. Look, I gotta share a story. So when I was about 3 or 4, I don't even remember, right? So we moved to South Carolina. This is all I remember. Like my childhood was like I went from around. But so my mom and stepfather, I went back to live with them for a short stay. I was like all around. So they moved to South Carolina and they lived in this trailer. This trailer on a dirt road next to like a freaking cliff in the back with a train track, right? When the train would come by, the trailers would shake like freaking, right? But look, this is hilarious. So my stepfather comes home one day. Yeah, this is he comes home one day and he's got a freaking dead deer in his trunk. He's got a dead deer in his trunk, not a pickup truck, in his trunk. He takes this deer, and this was trauma. This was trauma for a young kid. He takes everything out of you can't make this up. He takes everything out of the refrigerator and he brings this full body deer in and he starts to shove this whole freaking deer in the refrigerator and he's jamming its neck and he's breaking its legs and he's jamming the refrigerator shut with a deer that was hit by a truck on the road. And all I can remember is having nightmares about this freaking deer coming alive and coming to get me. But you can't make this stuff up. I'll never forget. I don't remember much about my childhood, but that story you'll never freaking forget. Who in their right mind that like only a dope head does that? I'm sorry to say, but
How old were you?
I was like 3 or 4.
Man, you every like couple weeks you tell a new piece of your story.
Look,
and it's like, man, like how are you like
look, Selena,
you're such a survivor.
Thank you, Selena. That's not hunting, Selena. That's called psychoism. Who the frick does that? Like if I could only,
because you're saying he was breaking the deer's legs, shoving it in, and you were watching.
Dude, he was shoving a whole body deer that was found on the road into a refrigerator. He took the shelves out and everything. That was the
Hey
most.
guys,
How
you're
do
having
I?
a full demonstration of what trauma does and how it's experienced. Like you're like describing that with so much emotion right now.
Look,
I feel
I
bad.
mean,
You
like,
know what? I feel sorry for like little baby Raymond, like little Raymond, whoever that boy, little Raymond. I feel like little Raymond needs a hug,
oh
and
my
little Raymond
God.
needs to be told it'll be okay. Like you should go back. You should like meditate, go back to little baby Raymond, and say, "Hey Raymond, look how far I got us. You're gonna be okay." Poor Raymond.
Oh man. Whew, if I
Oh
could tell
God.
you if I could tell you some stories.
Selena says you need
Selena,
a Catholic priest.
no, I don't. That's the last thing I need is a Catholic priest. So,
Selena, don't get him started on that one, please. That's probably should have never said Catholic priest. Should have never said that. Oh my! And you know
oh,
what? And you know what Laura says?
hold on. You good.
Laura says Raymond. Laura says Raymond is not into the psychology stuff, and that you deflect the conversation. You change. He turns it into it's like bringing stuff up for him. This is so lightweight conversation, and it's bringing up stuff for you. Actually, it wasn't even me. It
Look,
was Crystal. Crystal with her roadkill
no,
talk.
Crystal said squirrel, and that's what I do when it's squirrel. Where's the squirrel? And then you
She
got
said
me off track.
roadkill. She said she talked about her roadkill because squirrel uses all the time. But she talked about a dead animal in the street. That's it. Like little baby Raymond. I just pictured him with a with a with a grown up head and a tiny toddler body.
That's so fun. Babe,
Guys,
I need a
we
picture of
need to
that.
like we need to like
Oh,
all rescue little baby Raymond. Tell him it'll be
oh my
okay. You
God.
know, tell little baby Raymond, little baby Raymond. I know you're going through a lot. I know it's tough, but you're
Dude,
gonna grow up
I was
to
the
help so
coolest.
many people. You're gonna be great. You're gonna grow up to help so many people. And your story, what you're going through right now, is gonna be the story that serves and helps others. I want you to
Yeah,
dream about that tonight. That's what
that's
you need to
right.
tell
That's
yourself.
right.
Because
So dream about that, not the deer.
don't dream about the deer. Just go back and rescue like go back to little baby Raymond, 3-year-old Raymond. Say, you know, you had a crazy ass stepdad, but it's gonna be okay. You're gonna tell this story one day. You're gonna laugh about it. You're gonna laugh
That's
about it,
too much.
and then this girl Crystal is gonna laugh about it too and put a big head on you. That's
All right,
basically
let's move on. Let's move on.
all right. Now that we went through the trauma, anyway, so I described the all or none thinking, guys. All or none thinking is black and white thinking, all or none. We also do it to ourselves as far as like have you ever made like a small mistake and or things didn't come out as you had planned and then all of a sudden you're beating yourself up because you didn't do it perfect? So that is all or none thinking. Perfection is all or none thinking because that really never happens. Like we really never could land on perfection land because there's always a way of doing things better, and it's just an unrealistic expectation. So that's all or none thinking. Do you want to say a
It
story
is.
about all or none
It's
thinking?
it's well, I really can. I got so many. If you guys only knew the arsenal of stories I had, but I don't really talk about the past because it's all about progression and moving into the future, right?
It's
But
okay to
anyways,
talk about the past. It's
no,
okay.
no,
Let
listen.
people
So
have
when we talk
permission,
about,
guys. You
we're
guys
not
have
talking
permission
about that
to talk
now.
about the past.
So when we talk
I
about
want to
when
give people permission to speak about the past.
we're not speaking about the past right now. I'm look, we want to speak about the past so we can pull out the good things in some of the things that make you who you are. But we really want to throw out the rest of the stuff. Good stories are good to remember, but you know, there's a lot of stuff like I don't that's the one thing that I used to have a problem with the rooms of you know, Alcoholics Anonymous. You know what I mean? Is it was just, you know, after 7 or 8 years, I got tired of hearing about the same thing over. It's good for the newcomers, but when you become an old timer and you got years under your belt, you want to start hearing about, you know, greatness. You want to start hearing about, and that's what the turnoff was, right? So anyways, when we talk about all or none,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah, I
I
get
coach
you.
youth sport for a long time. And the one thing that I used to tell the kids is, yes, we will strive for perfection. We want to run this play perfect. We want to have a perfect season. So in the process of practicing towards perfection, you can attain excellence. It's not about being perfect. It's about striving for perfection, because what it is, it's you're dedicating to your team. You're establishing to yourself that you're going to do everything you can to become the very best, knowing that when you're doing, that's when you can accept the losses. You can accept the losses in life when you know you give it everything you got, right? Because you're not perfect. You're not perfect, but you were an excellent team. You were an excellent individual. You were excellent in everything you do. I think a lot of times we try to have, the perfect, it goes with timing. Do we have the perfect timing? Are we in the perfect place? Do we have the perfect this? Do we have the perfect that? And it's like, you know what? You just keep moving forward, and in the process, you'll become excellent along the way, where it's just, it becomes a routine. It becomes a natural habit, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Selena says you can sit on her couch, but her time is limited. All right. Next one, guys. So number 4, we're going to number 4 now. Another form
can you
of.
imagine? I gotta. Can you imagine, like, literally, right? So when we're all in Ireland, right? Can can you guys even comprehend what's gonna happen? Like,
But how cold is it going to be at that time? Is it going
it
to be super
doesn't
cold?
matter. Who can, really? See, that's that Debbie Downer stuff right there. We're gonna be in Ireland, enjoying ourselves, and you're talking about the weather. Are you kidding
I
me?
need to know what type of clothes to take. I
Who
can't take a
cares?
cut
Buy
off
them
shirt.
there. Oh,
I
you know
can't I
what?
can't do that.
Anyways, go ahead. Jumping to conclusions.
Jumping to conclusions. Okay, next one is jumping to conclusions. Another negative, self-defeating way of thinking that limits your possibilities and limits your success. And this is when we make hasty judgments or make assumptions without considering or looking at all the evidence. Sometimes that happens in conversations. Sometimes you don't hear everything the other person has to say before you jump into the conclusion of thinking that you know what they're trying to say or want to say. Um, so it could happen like it could be like mind reading, like you feel like you know what the other person's thinking, or it could be like predicting the future. It could be that you feel like you know what's going to happen next, so you jump to conclusions, and because you jumped to conclusions and decided what was going to happen next, you all of a sudden made a decision based off what you're currently thinking and not really what's could happen. So jumping to conclusions could with these explanations I just gave you, you could definitely see how it could hurt your relationships. It could hurt so many things, because if you're a negative person, or if you're depressed or you're anxious, or you have the habit of thinking negatively, and your assumptions are negative assumptions, or your predictions of the future are negative, then obviously the decisions you're going to make to prevent those pains are going to be decisions that don't necessarily serve you. So let me know if that makes sense to you, or if you've experienced that before. Because and I hope I explained it in a way that makes sense as far as like how it affects us. You want to throw a story on that one too, Raymond?
No, I don't
So
have to throw a story on.
Selena says hot mess.
No, she's talking about us all in Ireland. She's not talking about just me,
Oh,
because I can guarantee
you're a
you
hot mess.
this. She's my Irish sister, and I bet you she's
And I
as
look
much as
for.
a hot mess as I am.
I'm
She's
pretty
just
sure. I'm pretty sure we're all a hot mess. I'm
she's
pretty
just
sure
a
we're
very
all a hot mess.
educated hot mess.
Probably.
So
Believe
so
me, we all have our own versions of being a hot mess. It ain't just Raymond. It ain't just little Ray Ray. No.
oh, we know you. You guys don't want it, anyways. So what were we just talking about? What were we just talking about?
We were talking about
Jumping to
jumping to
conclusions.
conclusions for telling the
So
telling the
this is this is
being a
this
mind
is this
reader
is
or fortune teller, and how that
definite.
affects your. I'm trying to explain it to you.
You don't need to explain it to me. I'm only going to say one thing. Oh my gosh, Mrs.
Go
Counselor,
irritability. Go
counselor,
irritability. Go.
counselor, counselor, counselor. Isn't that what Robert De Niro used to say to Nick Nolte in Cape Fear? Counselor. Anyways,
Mhm.
whatever. That was a great movie if you've never seen Cape Fear. Man, that's an old movie. That makes me feel old. But anyways, when it calls jumping to conclusions, this is This is how you eliminate any of that. Don't let people do it to you, right? So what I say to that is when somebody comes to you and says, hey, Raymond, did you hear about Selena? Did you know? I immediately like to really try to say, okay, well, I know Selena. Selena's a good person. Um, and I'll ask the person, did you talk to Selena about this? Did you hear this directly from Selena? Well, no. Well, then maybe you should find out what the truth is before you start to say it. So jumping to conclusions is always trying to find somebody else's motives, trying to find out why somebody else did something. You have no idea what they're going through in their life. You have no idea what situation they're trying to avoid. You have no idea the hardships, the hurts that they're trying to hide. So we can't really jump to conclusions why somebody does what they do. If somebody does something stupid, somebody does something stupid. And we can look back and say, man, I remember when I did something stupid like that. How can I serve their need? Right? And if they ain't interested, they ain't interested. But don't jump to conclusions because every situation is literally different because you have no idea what someone's going through.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's such a good point because we tend to personalize which is another one, but we tend to personalize what people do to us. But a lot of what people do is more about them than it is about us. And in the moment, because you're feeling the emotion that comes with it, you're not realizing that. But that's a great reminder not to take things personal because you never
That's
know. You
so.
never know what someone's
So
going through.
when we talk about leadership, right? And I talk to Crystal about this a lot too. So when we talk about leadership, right? Leadership. See, the reason why there's a lack of leadership is because people respond based on their personal opinion or personal feelings. Leadership never responds based on personal feelings. They always respond based on other people, based on how's this going to impact X. See, I get so frustrated with people like, and I see it all through the area I live in. I see it all through the place. I see these self-proclaimed leaders who constantly are pointing the finger, constantly criticizing, constantly mocking, constantly, and that's not leadership. Leadership does not do any of that. Leadership is constantly thinking about serving those that are underneath of them, behind them, not on the same level as them. So I just wanted to say that because, yeah, just popped in my mind.
Hey, Selena made a really good point too. She says it's easy to jump to conclusions when you have had negative experiences. History generally repeats itself, and that's such a great point because all of these thinking patterns are
Mm-hmm.
trauma responses, and
Yep.
even though we all experience this, but for people who experience them chronically, consistently, it's a trauma response. It's a way of protecting ourselves. So it if you've been through major complex trauma as a child, this is second nature to you because that's a way of you protecting yourself and going ahead and protecting yourself from something happening again. So it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
100% trauma response. What does yeah, Crystal says zero accountability.
We were
All right,
talking
so
about
then
leadership.
yeah, you're making Raymond, you're making really awesome points. Just want to point that out.
Ooh.
That's why today you're my sidekick. Next week I'm gonna be his sidekick. I don't know what he's gonna talk
I
about
gotta
next week,
live till the mic
but
turns off.
okay. So number 5, catastrophic thinking. I mean, it says it right
Ooh.
there what it is,
We know some
but
people like
catastrophic.
that. Ooh.
What? Yeah, me. Like I could do that very well. So
Well, I
catastrophic
think
thinking. This is when you blow things out of proportion and you catastrophize your experiences and you see the negative thing. It's like the mental filtering, but worse because it's like you zoom in on this thing and then you blow it out of proportion emotionally and you just get all emotionally overwhelmed by it. So I was telling Raymond that this happens to me like if I get sick and I have a fever and I start feeling all a fever and all that, I literally I'll cry throughout the whole thing, not because I have a fever, but because I think I'm actually dying. So I start like thinking, oh my God, I really have something and I'm dying. And then he made fun of me, of course. But that is basically a form of catastrophic thinking is you're just sick and all of a sudden you think it's you're dying, it's the end of the world and everything. Another way of showing catastrophic thinking is say you have a small fight with your significant other, your boyfriend, whatever it is, And then you start to panic thinking, oh my God, he's going to break up with me. And you blow it out of proportion. Or you blow out of proportion something small that someone does to you, and you turn it into like you villainize the person. All of a sudden, the person is a villain and they're a terrible person, which goes along with all or none thinking. So that is catastrophic thinking. What do you have any examples of that, Mr. Raymond? Or do you guys out there have any examples of that?
I
Oh,
mean,
Crystal says she's so guilty of this too. Crystal has a few of these apparently. Oh my,
it's well
I
because again, it becomes when you grew up, and
just
Crystal
open.
was also and salute to Crystal because she was also in the military, right? So I'm sure that the things that you see and deal with, but you deal with so much of this stuff as a child. And like
Yeah,
I grew up, right? And my parents would go on binges, or things would happen. Like, I mean, crazy stuff. Like I seen some crazy stuff, right? So therefore, it's even like, so therefore you become a parent, or you become a spouse, or you become something, and your first your first reasoning in your mind usually goes to something catastrophic, right?
yeah.
Oh my
Hmm.
gosh, my kid didn't answer my phone. I wonder if they were in an accident. I wonder if something bad happened. And you start to go
Exactly.
in that you literally can feel, your mind can literally tell you that happened, knowing that their phone died. It's
Right.
just,
It's so
I mean,
true.
it's
But it's
something
so true.
simple.
And what you're saying is so important too, because your mind believes anything you tell it. So like you said, your body feels all that.
Yep,
Like
yep,
if it's true,
yep.
like it really just happens.
Yeah,
How
it's
many
the
times
same
do we
thing
do that
a
to
lot of
ourselves
times,
over smaller things?
huh?
How many times do we do that to ourselves over even smaller things?
Oh, I believe it. I see it every day at work. I see it every day at work. I see it. I see it in business. I see it in entrepreneurship. I see it in people trying to, especially when people make the transition into the growth mindset, when people make the transition into self-development, when people make that transition to says, you know what, my life has really sucked. But this is the common denominator of everything in your life. You guys want to know the biggest common denominator, the biggest secret in life that everything revolves around?
What is it? Tell us
It's
the big secret.
ourselves.
Everybody lean in. Everybody
It's
lean in. What is
ourselves.
it?
It's ourselves. It's ourselves. We're the common denominator in every single freaking aspect of our life. Everything.
Hmm.
Everything. The past, right? The future, the present, right? Where we want to go, where we don't want to go. Everything revolves around things that have happened to us, traumas of the past, right? The things that we've been taught, the opinions of other people, and then everything that we want to do. And we got everything that we want to do, and it's always opposed to everything, all the other garbage, which is 100 times more greater if you allow it than where you want to go. Because everything starts to play in your mind. Your conscious mind continues to overwhelm you, and you can't, and then you tell your subconscious mind it's not possible, and your subconscious mind says okay. Right.
Yeah,
But
it's true. And then your
you
conscious
know
mind agrees. Yeah,
yeah.
you're
And then
right.
after
It's
that,
true.
you can be as pissed off and angry as you want, but when you tell your subconscious mind, you can't get mad at what you told it.
Yeah, but look, let me step in for a second. So that is all of that is 100% true. But as adults, we need to recognize where it came from. So where does it come from? It comes from our experience, life experiences, from our childhood, from the things that were said to us, from all this stuff that we learned. But as an adult,
But can
we're
I say
able
one
to
thing
think
too?
about,
The
sure,
new thing too. No. The new thing too is so even if you have a good childhood, people who get caught up in the social media and the television and all that stuff, they build that in them just as well. And they believe, I've seen and worked with people that believe they've had a traumatic childhood when they actually did not have a traumatic childhood. They actually have built their own trauma through the chaos of the world. And they stay confined to that.
yeah,
Anyways, I
but if
just
they
want to share that.
believe it, it's true for them. There's people who have had traumatic, super traumatic there's people who have been super traumatized and they'll tell you, oh, nothing happened, like I'm over that, that happened years ago. And it's like, yeah, well, you're showing all these trauma responses now. But what I was going to say a minute ago was that we have a choice as adults to decide and figure out what is serving us. Like, we could decide this thought doesn't serve me, this way of thinking doesn't serve me, this way of doing things doesn't serve me. It's killing my possibilities. It's killing my ability to move forward, whatever it is. So we do have a choice. The other day we were talking about what we can and cannot control. We can control certain choices that we make. So it's not like a hopeless situation. You can change these. That's why we're talking about these, so that you could have awareness as to how you do them, and think about, like, man, I need to change my thinking pattern, because it's going to produce everything or not produce what you want in life. All right. So the next one is, we're done with catastrophic thinking. The next one is emotional reasoning. And basically, emotional reasoning is when you think with your emotions. So if you feel sad, then you think with your sadness, and then you justify your actions, what you're going to say, what you're going to do, your decisions. You justify it with your sadness. And basically, it's almost like you're blaming your sadness on it, or your sadness on it, or you're using it as the reason why. So does that, let me give you an example. So, for example, that this could happen in a relationship. You don't trust your girlfriend, and because you don't trust your girlfriend, and because you feel insecure, you use that as the reason to check her phone and check her emails. That's an example. So you use your emotions as the reason and the justification to do what it is that you're gonna do. Does that, do you have some other explanation?
No, this is all on you.
Well, no, it hasn't been, because you've been talking a lot, so I don't know what you're talking about.
No, this one's
It's not all on me.
emotional, only because the clock's
Oh,
ticking. So I didn't want to take up too much time, because
all right.
whatever.
Number number seven is should statements. So have you ever heard "don't should" all over yourself? That's the joke. So don't should all over yourself. Hold on, let me see what Selena says.
My
Selena
kids,
says this one
my
will
kids.
kill any future business relationship. Emotional reasoning, she says it will kill. Wait, which one, should or the emotional reasoning? I don't know
No,
which.
emotional reasoning, probably. Emotional reason is I mean, that's emotional reason is why people stay in domestic violence relationships, and freaking spouses that are constantly sleeping around on them, and freaking people who are, just complete chaotic and bring, you know what I mean? Like that's really what I see. And we can make all the things, and it's just, oh yeah, just, I don't know.
Okay, next one is should statements. So obviously, should statements are when we say, "Oh, you should be doing this. You ought to be doing this." Like it's almost, it's like another way of doing the all or none thinking, but it's basically you saying you ought to, you must, you should, and we do this to ourselves all day long, and we
Yeah.
do it to ourselves more than we would do to anybody else. Like, we wouldn't tell someone else you should be farther along, by this point in time. And but yet we tell ourselves that, and I'm guilty of that too. It's part of perfectionistic thinking, is you should do this and you should do that. And who made up these rules? And we really
I
wouldn't.
did.
That's almost like emotional abuse. When we talk to ourselves this way, it's like we're abusing ourselves, and we really wouldn't talk to anyone else like that. Definitely not someone that we really care about or respect, right?
It's the
So I know you're trying
old
to go.
saying, if somebody, my mentor used to tell me, if somebody talked to you the way you talk to yourself, you'd kick their face.
For real. Yeah, it's true. And I'm guilty of that too, because you've caught me a lot of times saying things and you're like, and then you correct my talking. So that is shoulds, and shoulds are very painful. Like, shoulds just don't put you in a good space. All right, next one.
Stupid
So
should.
since now you already put the clocker on, the ticker on, now I'm like trying to go fast.
No,
There's
I
only
was
two
just
more.
saying. Okay, 3 more. Good Lord, have mercy.
Two more. It's number.
Okay,
It's only 9.
you guys know Sarai
Um,
he and her 17-point documentaries.
Be quiet. Some people appreciate my documentaries.
I do too.
Okay.
I'm just
Okay,
listen.
preacher.
without any humor, we're no fun. We have to have humor. We have to have a little humor, or else we're just geeks, nerds,
Anyways,
dorks.
you're the professor. I mean, I'm the professor and you're the preacher, right? So that's what it is.
Actually,
All right.
I'd like to say that I have a little bit of professor in me too.
Yeah,
I'm
you
a
do,
self
but you seem to
I'm a
only
self
tag me
pro
with it.
I'm a self-proclaimed professor, dog.
And then when I preach, you start telling me that I'm talking too much. But yet you talk so much, like for real, you talk so much. But yet if I speak too much, all of a sudden I'm preaching and Selena's
Listen to the
laughing.
attitude. Oh, so you're the true that true inner frustration is starting to come out in public. Wow.
What do you mean? It's been coming out since day one. Selena has been witness to it this whole time. Selena, all these, everyone, everyone's been witness to it. Like
Oh my
everything
god.
you complain about me is what you do. By the way, that's a rule, guys. That's another rule. Like anything you complain about the other person, just stop for a second and ask yourself, do I do that also? Because probably you do. Like Raymond.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, let me see what she said. Yes, perfectionism will cause many mental health issues. Yes, or it's a sign of a mental health issue. I know this one too well. It causes too much stress for me. Wait, wait. Hey, look, we could touch fingers.
Okay, what's the next one?
All right. The next one is where were we?
Hey,
Okay,
you
the next
guys.
one is quiet. The next one is next one is labeling, and this is when we make a judgment about ourselves or someone else as a person rather than because they do something, you label them as a bad person. So maybe someone lied to you, and then all of a sudden you ask them, and they're like the worst person on earth or evil, and stuff like that. And it necessarily need to be that. It could be like what we were talking about a minute ago, that it's just a reflection of themselves. So labeling and blaming, wait, I said labeling, right? I got screwed up. So labeling is when that is that thing. When we label someone based off you're screwing me up. When you label someone based off their behaviors. So, are you guilty of that, Mr. Raymond? Ray
Oh
Ray?
man, I'm the best labeler of myself in the world. I don't
Really?
necessarily label other people, but I'm a great labeler of myself, right? And people talk about affirmation statements. You know what I mean? I can remember a time when I would try to do affirmation statements, and I would be like, "I am great." No, you're not. I am worthy. No, you suck. Right? It was that. Like I'm I'm
Wait,
serious.
I gotta laugh. I gotta ask Selena to laugh with me right now because I visualize that right now. I saw it happening like
Yes,
in the
I'm not
bathroom. You're looking in the
fucking.
mirror.
Now, you guys, if you guys knew it took me 2 years to smile, I'm not kidding. It took me 2 years. Listen, Selena, I wasn't only a labeler, I was a puncher. So if I thought something of somebody, I would deck them. Like I was so I can just remember when yeah, man. And but that's the thing, but we talked about it earlier too. Repeated offenders,
Hey,
though you forgive,
mhm.
but a liar is a liar. If a liar doesn't want to change, if a liar isn't going to admit his faults or her faults, then those we talked about earlier that's a relationship deal breaker for me. It's not that I want to think any less of them. It's just the fact that if I can't believe what somebody's telling me, right? So labeling is bad, but if somebody's a repeated offender, I think you gotta take it with great assault. If a liar keeps lying, then obviously they're a liar. If a
Well,
cheater
yeah,
keeps
you could
cheating,
if then they're a cheater. But the thing is to call them to label them as a bad person or evil or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
like your behavior doesn't equal you being a bad person. And then Sarah was talking about I have been fighting my perfectionism. So for we a couple times other people have mentioned perfectionism, and that's I've worked on that a lot in my life. But I want you to know, anyone out there that's you're struggling with perfectionism is a trauma response. So perfectionism or being a perfectionist is something that we had to become in order to survive wherever we were living. So think about that. Like, it's not that you had to become a perfectionist for some reason, and just dwell on that for a second. Why did you have to become a perfectionist? What in your environment caused you to be that? And you could shed that now. Like, you could acknowledge and honor like your pain at that point, why you had to become that, and let it go now, because it's really a trauma response to be a perfectionist. It's not something
Absolutely.
realistic. It's not achievable. It's none of that. um Next one is, the last one is personalization and blame. So this is another thing that will really hurt us in our on our journey to success or whatever it is, and that is when we view ourselves basically as the center, where it's like you're the center of attention, like everything is happening because of me. um and that could be something that you learned as a child too. It could be that you were blamed for things at home. It could be that you were the oldest one and you were responsible for everything, and maybe you're 12 taking care of like 3 or 4 younger siblings, and you weren't doing it perfect, and then you got told that it's your fault because one of your siblings got burnt while taking a bath. And then you learn that it's your fault, and everything is, you blame yourself and you personalize everything. But then as an adult, that's not really functional. It's not really functional to be that way. So anyway, do you want to say something about personalization and blame?
I think a lot of this really rolls into a lot of the same categories.
Well,
You
because when
know,
you have one, you probably have a bunch of them.
well, absolutely,
When
absolutely, and when it all really boils down to it, is they're all learned behaviors. I really believe they're all
Mhm.
learned behaviors, and
Yeah.
I just want to say this as we start to wrap it up. When we talk about a lot of this stuff, is, no matter where we are, no matter the labels we put on ourselves, and a lot of us, there's so many people, right? The first thing that, like, I have met people, and this is what they say: "Hey, I'm so and so, and I'm depressed. Hey, I'm so and so." Like, they label themselves, right? They label themselves, and the label that you put on yourself is one of the hardest labels to break. So I just want everyone to understand that when we do this, like, if you get value out of this, share it out, like it, share it out, because we really want to start to get people, especially in the time that we're in right now, is to start to be able to handle and deal with things themselves, right? Without addictions, without, like, eventually, who knows? I mean, you've seen, like, who knows, who freaking crack cocaine will be legalized before I die? Who the hell knows what's going to happen? Because they just want to masquerade everything. But we need to give people the tools and the resources. So I ask, become a student. Become a student to life. Become a student to growth. Become a student to change. Become a student so that you can show other people the possibilities of what is out there when you put yourself first and you start to focus on eliminating some of the things that we talked about tonight. Because is it going to be easy? Frick no. It's going to be hard as hell. And sometimes it's really going to suck. It's really going to suck sometimes. But you got to get through the pain. You got to get through the transition, because when you get through the transition, on the other side of that pain is your purpose. It's your promise. And it's the things that you can do to start to serve other people, your children, your grandchildren, even people who are struggling, your parents, whatever. They're going to start to see a change, and you never know what can happen. So I don't know why that came to me, but I just wanted to share that before we finish.
Well, I like so much what you said on the other side. On the other side, and I'm actually typing of your pain is your purpose. And man, that is so true. And it's not about giving. It's not about giving. I'm not going to say like, well, trauma made you, because trauma doesn't make us. What makes us is the resiliency that we have, inside of us, that gets us through those times. And then we're able to see, man, how strong I am, or I was able
Yeah.
to endure that. I could take on anything. So it isn't really so much about, honoring the perpetrators or honoring like the exact trauma. It's more about honoring your resilience and your strength and your human spirit, and how that got you through. and that's proof that you could continue to go through. If you were able to get through all of that, man, like with your stories, if you were able to get through all those stories that you keep dripping little by little, if you're able, what does that speak about you and your spirit? Like, that's a major warrior spirit. I mean, that's just like a testimony to, like the human, what humans could endure, and all of that. And in your case, what God has done for you too, that he's been able to transform you, and you've been able, he's giving you the strength and the courage to transform. So what else can you go through? You could do anything. I mean, if you went through all of that, you could do anything you choose to do.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you guys. Thanks everyone for being here. The other side of this is how to get rid of all of these. And we didn't get to talk about that, but maybe we'll do that in a couple weeks when it's my turn again. I'm not sure.
Well, sorry.
So good night to everyone. Hope
We
everyone
love you
learned some really good
guys.
stuff.
I
Think
love you
about
guys.
these.
I always hope we bring maximum value, even in the silliness. We want to bring, we really what it's all about. It's about maximum value. But listen, implementation. I don't care how great we all are. I don't care what a professor that Sarai is. I don't care what a preacher you think I am. I don't care what scholars each and every one of you are. If you are not learning daily, if you are not a student of life, if you are not a student of growth, if you are not a student of becoming the best you can be, then you're failing yourself. Every day, like what we're talking about, if there's one thing that was said that you can implement into your life, then dang, you ought to be doing it. Right? So anyways, I got to use the little boys' room. So we're going to wrap this thing up.
Yeah. All right. Good night, everyone. Tonight was about
Love you guys.
insight. Hope you got some insight, guys.
Insight.